Stop the cap.
I think we had the golden chance after World War II, and we flubbed it, because here we had a GI Bill that was that was available to everybody, but in a way they didn't make it available to everybody, and that was a golden opportunity in this country, and we missed it. We really missed it.
Don, I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminists, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that, because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children, and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks, at least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans don't understand.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
The reason people are concerned about the words they use, the reason Americans care about civil rights, the reason we are sensitive to racism is for one issue and one issue only, and that is how black Americans were treated in this country. It is because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Those do not compare. Irish, the new groups, they always get a little bad treatment. Do not compare that to how blacks are treated in this country. You don't get to piggyback on the black experience in America. You do not get to do that just because you are a woman, an immigrant, gay, Hispanic. No, the rest of you can go F yourselves. No, this is for black Americans. We seem to have forgotten them.
Former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, and I worked South Central Los Angeles, and I will tell you, Director Deutsch, emphatically and without equivocation.
Can you speak further into the mic, sir? These mics don't seem to be...
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time. Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence. My question for you is very specific, sir. If in the course of the IG's investigations and Fred Hitz's work, you come across evidence of severely criminal activity, and it's classified, will you use that classification to hide the criminal activity, or will you tell the American people the truth?
I'm sitting here, it's late at night, and I got sucked into watching that Larry Elder's interview on higher learning, because somebody sent me a message saying that the Van, who is the brother doing the interview, where do I know him from? Why is he familiar to me? I can't think of what other show was he on. I can't think of whatever it was. I've seen the brother talk before, but I don't think it was on this show. But anyway, somebody sent me a message saying that he was using SWP talking points when talking about things like, redlining, blockbusting, eminent domain, urban renewal. And really, he only brought up urban renewal. That's one that he brought up, about the whole running highways through the center of black communities like Tulsa after it was rebuilt. And many other cities in Durham, North Carolina, Black Bottom in Detroit, Central Ave in Tampa, Florida. They ran I-4 right through the prominent black business district. And like Larry Elder's gaslighting and disingenuous conversation, and I'm glad to see this is why history is important. And this is why they don't want people to learn CRT, because it changes the narrative once you actually know the history and you're not operating in myth and mythos and these ideas of either things not happening or this total fabrication of reality, of omitting substantial portions of why, in the particular case of African Americans have struggled to quote unquote catch up to white people. I agree with the point that white people haven't stopped, right? It's not like after black people were freed from slavery, that white people took a time out and waited for black people to catch up. But yeah, black people have made great strides, in the white community. The system of white supremacy has done everything in its power to make sure that black people are not successful. And then when they do act like, oh well, we did something, it's kind of like they try to put a band-aid on a hemorrhaging wound as opposed to actually stopping the bleeding, right? And they don't really want the person. It's like the movie Misery, where the lady was in there and she was breaking the guy's legs in the bed. Where it's like, you really don't want the person to you don't want the person to get better. You're intentionally, you'll see this with women in healthcare. They intentionally, because they like the attention that they get from the child, I mean from everybody, like as the caretaker, they'll intentionally poison the child to keep the child sick. I forget exactly what the term is, but it's kind of like there's malingering is one of them, and then there's another term. I forget what it is off the top of my head. Oh, I just remembered. Factitious disorders, malingering, and this factitious disorder. But anyway, I was watching that video, that Drew Perry video of the guy, the pouch. I don't know if he's Australian or not, and the bullshit that he said in the video. I'm gonna address that video, separately. The intellectual dishonesty. I looked at some of the comments. And there's this consistent theme that I keep seeing with white people. Like, number one, white people want to be the victims, right? Black people calling out racism and white supremacy, demanding reparations. They want to act like they're the victims, and everybody's against white people and calling out white supremacy. And you get these white people that they say that they're not racist, but yet, they feel this strong sense of victimhood, and this idea that, everybody's against white people, and, going into, Governor DeSantis, that, actually telling the real history that happened makes white people feel bad about themselves. And it's real funny to me, because it's like, I remember crying and being about, I think it was 7 years old when I heard about slavery. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, like, realizing that, like hearing about slavery, I remember I got sent to the principal's office because I was like emotionally fucked up learning about slavery. So I'm like, I went through that learning about slavery, right? And so you get white people that I'm like, motherfucker, you were on the dominant end of that. You know what I mean? And they're over there like, oh, it makes me feel bad. Oh, it makes me feel guilty because y'all come from a lineage of evil, right? Then you get the people that want to like spread the blame and, do this whole like, well, every civilization has had, terrible things that they're not proud of. And so, it's not just a uniquely white thing. It's it's evil is just everywhere. Okay, so then why are we constantly having to hear these conversations, especially coming from the right, about being morally righteous and morally just, and oh, you shouldn't do that, right? If everybody's evil, and again, we're just a bunch of Sith lords running around with red lightsabers, then if a black person attacks you or robs you or knocks you over the head, why don't you just accept that as reality and then say, well, we're all evil? Like, why is it whenever black people bring up white supremacy and the racism and the systemic racism and the policies that were put in place that have affected black people in the past and currently, you want to bring up some idea of some universal global, every group has done some evil shit, and so therefore we're not going to talk about our shit? Because the way that I look at it from that position, well, then we can't talk. If that's what it is, then we can't talk. You can't single out any particular group doing anything, in the future tense. So if a black person robs you, I can just say, well, we're all evil. If a black person murders you, I can just say, well, we're all evil. It's just a part of the thing. In other words, there is no right or wrong or moral or justice or anything like that. It doesn't exist. I'm so sick and tired of white people, shaping the discussion in a manner where, they are already moral and justice and good. They are the moral compass, and it's everybody else that has to get their shit right. And whatever they did, it's in the past, despite the fact that they're still doing it. Right? Despite the fact that what racism is about power and maintaining power. That's what it's about. It's not about, good or wrong, evil, whatever. It's about maintaining power. I don't have to put the whole conversation in terms of right or wrong. I'm not even religious like that. I don't even give a fuck about right or wrong, in those regards, because to me, at the end of the day, it's really about power. That shit is like relative. That shit is like, depending on, whatever the situation is. But see, when we get to the conversation of power, see, I don't have to get into whether it's right or wrong. I can get right to, what it's really about, which is about domination and about, wanting to be in control and having everything be advantageous to you at other people's expense. That has nothing to do with right, wrong, evil, or whatever. But see, what white people want to do is they constantly want to maintain themselves as the moral compass. So they want to maintain power at the same time that they maintain the position of being the moral compass of the world. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. You see, because if you're fucking other people over, that does make you evil. You can argue, oh no, it makes us smart, but it does make you evil because you're literally fucking other people over, for your own personal benefit or your own personal gain at everybody else's expense. That does make you evil based on your own fucking books. You the one that want to run around and throw around white Jesus and y'all running around and talking about how you a good Christian and you an evangelical Christian and you got the sweet twinkle of white Jesus in your eye and it's all about goodness and righteousness and justice and all this other bullshit. But it's funny as how when we get to the race conversation, all of a sudden the rules change. All of a sudden, white Jesus and what would Jesus do? And all that just goes out of the window. This is why I look at black people like black people are retarded when they run around with this white man's Jesus and Christianity and shit like that. Because them motherfuckers don't operate like that. They get you to co-sign some shit, get you to fall in line, get you to follow the rules and shit like that. Meanwhile, they go out here and do whatever the fuck they want to do. Rape, pillage, and plunder, exploitation, freaking anything that has to do with the manipulation of money or the manipulation of contracts and mortgages and all of the type of underwriting shit to where, they're literally taking advantage of your ignorance. Okay? And some of that they'll argue, oh, it's baked into capitalism. That makes me smart. Like Donald Trump says, that makes me smart. I took advantage of the tax code. That makes me smart. You know what I mean? So it's like they have this system. Think about that. White people have this system that's like, if I take advantage of this loophole in the system, it makes me smart. It makes me smart to take care of to take advantage of other people. It makes me smart to be super wealthy and not pay a proportionate share of taxes, right? While the people who make less are paying anywhere, like 40% of their freaking income, on taxes. Right. So if I structure the system in such a way that makes me smart and doesn't make me, a bad person. Like they're white people's logic is so fucking twisted on this front. It's insane because they created this system. But yet they want to run around and hold themselves, up as the epitome of moral justice, righteousness, awesomeness that everybody should aspire to. They want to be viewed, in a particular in a particular way. I was watching some clip. It had a Muslim guy. It was on some Muslim Instagram link that I came across, and he broke the shit down beautifully in terms of how they would, you want the world to see you in a way that you're not, that is not how you are. I remember when Cap, pointed this out about America when it came to people come into America and then why they leave. And the reality is why people come to America and then leave is because what America sells itself to be is not what it is. America is like the biggest fucking catfish that's out there. The land of the free, the home of the brave, the land of opportunity, and we believe in religious freedom, and we believe to not discriminate against anybody based on color and creed and orientation and all this other shit. But you come to this motherfucker and you see just how goddamn, fucking, racist it is, and how everybody just runs around. And they're just all, triggered, by the idea, oh my God, we're going to be outnumbered. Oh my God, we're going to be outvoted. Oh my God. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to the power shit. Even going into that whole freaking July Perry and Mose Norman. That whole situation. The white folks didn't want black people to vote. They didn't, and these are black men that were organized. They got all the black people to stay on code, in Orange County. You couldn't get anybody to work on your fields unless you went through those two black men, because none of the black people will work for you unless they organized the contracts or the work conditions. But anyway, that's not really what I wanted to talk about on this video. What I wanted to talk about is as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this before, but I didn't make a video specifically about it. America has the black people that America deserves. I see this shit on the news with the smash and grabs and the stealing from stores, right? And sometimes black people get caught up in that shit. You know what I mean? Like even when it comes to the carjacking, it's not like the teens that are out here that are carjacking. It's not like they're just carjacking white people. They're carjacking black people. They're carjacking whatever opportunity, with whoever, they can carjack or rob or home invade. See, the thing is like I said, white people kill me with this shit, because anytime, black people commit acts of violence against other black people, it's black on black violence. And they'll make those type of, those type of arguments. But let a white person, be targeted or be at the wrong place at the wrong time, not based on the fact that they're white, but based on the fact that, it's assumed that they have money, right? Which is kind of funny because, right, the white people will try to act like, there aren't these disparities in this in this nation, but we know that they only want there to be disparities in terms of criminality and shit like that. They'll talk about those disparities all day, but they won't talk about the economic condition disparities, right? Which actually work in the opposite direction, in reverse, against white people, where, if I'm a black criminal and I live in poverty, and why am I going to rob other black people that don't have shit, right? If black people are disproportionately poor, why am I going to try to rob black people? If I'm going to risk 5 to 10 years in prison, for, burglary and a gun charge and everything else, I might as well get the best bang for my buck, right? Why am I going to rob a fucking black person riding around in a freaking, a Buick Century from 1999? When I can rob a white person in a 2023 Range Rover? Why am I going to fucking rob a black person? Right? So right off top, the inequality in America, the racial financial inequality in America, is going to make white people targets, from black people. It's automatically, fucking matically. And so anyway, getting back to my point, I'm saying white people come online, they and all these racist channels, even the fucking kangaroo fucking channel, they love to come online and talk about who's committing all the crimes, who's committing all the murder, completely out of like. My question is, like, what the fuck did you think it was going to be? Like, I've said this before, like, white people act like American history starts in 1985. Like, they literally act like American history, black American history, starts in America in 1985. And nothing happened before that. So the black people's denial of the Homestead Act, right, which is the denial of access to land, which is denial of access to wealth, right? The redlining, the blockbusting, the Jim Crow, the eminent domain, the urban renewal, the convict leasing, the COINTELPRO, the assassination of black leaders, right, who were promoting black people's self-determination and personal responsibility all over the place. Freaking the dumping of drugs in the black community, job discrimination, racial housing covenants, right? Mass incarceration with the 1994 crime bill, CIA, Iran, Contras, dumping drugs in the black community. I was talking to I was actually playing a video game, and I was talking to a guy who basically, he's dying. And he told me point blank that he was down there in freaking down there, fighting what was it, the whole situation with the Iran Contras and the Sandinistas and all that other stuff, right? And he said, I've watched them put pallets of cocaine on planes to be flown back to the U.S. He was like, oh yeah. And the way I just let him talk. But the way that he explained it, the way that he looked at it is we were containing communism, right? Because America has gone out, all around the world and basically busted up, socialist movements and again, that whole, what is socialism? Socialism are the people controlling the means of the production. Right? The workers controlling the means of production. So it's a more balanced system, unlike capitalism, which is what everybody's looking at and discussing now, where you have the situation, now where, there's obviously an imbalance. People can't afford homes. The wages have been stagnant. Meanwhile, CEOs have been getting more and more money, right? They're making more and more money than they've ever made, right? And yet it doesn't trickle down, to the employees. That trickle down economic shit is bullshit. And now, for the first time in many decades, the white people are starting to see that shit, right? But again, the game of look at the black people, look at the black kids, look at the black teenagers. Don't pay attention to the banks and the corporations and the politicians that have millions of dollars and shit and do inside trading when they should only be making about anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000. Don't pay attention to them. No, pay attention to the black people. the black teenagers and whatnot that are a byproduct of this entire fucking system where we have done everything in our power to crush the black community. Everything in our power. And we're not going to do anything to rectify the situation. Again, this is where I get on my evil shit. You know, because I want black people to do better, but at the same time, I want white people to feel the fucking pain. You know what I mean? When they're bitching and they're crying, oh, it's not safe outside. I hope that black people are a fucking plague and a parasite on this American system for as long as it need be. You know what I'm saying? I used to get caught up in all that, finger wagging. Oh, you black people, you need to go to school and get an education, and these whippersnappers and these thugs and shit like that. I used to get into all that type of shit. You know what I mean? I don't like the fucking the degeneracy and the debauchery and Ray and Pookie and all this other shit. I don't like none of that shit either. I want to live in safe communities, too, and be able to be around my own people and all that other shit. But I'm not about to sit up in here and act like white people didn't do everything in their power to fuck black people over. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like maybe we wouldn't have Ray and Pookie if it wasn't for the CIA dumping drugs in the black community. Again, go ask all the interviews and the videos of Freeway Rick Ross with Vlad on Vlad TV. Like, all the information is fucking out there. These motherfuckers, that again, crippled the black community. And I'm saying, I don't particularly know why, when you really look at it, like in the grand scheme of things, because, it's like, okay, white supremacy. Oh, we don't want black people because we don't want to be challenged and this, that, and the third. Most African Americans, all they want to do is have a piece of the American pie, live in decent communities, be able to accumulate some level of wealth, pass it on to the fucking next generation, you retire and fucking die and live, comfortably, proportionately, to how much of, middle class white America lives, and not live in squalor and not live in poverty and go without and food stamps and WIC and all this other bullshit. That's what the vast majority of African Americans. But no, not white people. Oh no, man, fuck that shit. No, y'all gotta be beneath us and live in the slums and all this other shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, how much fucking money, like white people, they're so stupid with the shit. How much fucking money has America lost since, I'd say, the fucking end of slavery, with all the black communities that you burnt down, right? All the ways in which, especially when it comes to like black patriarchy, you disadvantage the black man, he's unemployed, underemployed, can't look his woman in his face. That creates, social issues, in terms of him developing healthy relationships with his woman, healthy relationships with his kids, all that stuff. And I'm saying, we can make the argument about, patriarchy versus patriarchy, and they're always hostile, and we don't want to have black people competing against white people, and we want it all for ourselves. But then you end up with a situation where black people end up being just nothing but a burden on the system, when they could be contributing to the fucking system, since we're all in, the nation together, right? But then, you got to factor in the fact that, like, the way that the system is set up with the prison industrial complex, like, they're still extracting money from black people, but in a way that doesn't benefit the entire populace. It only benefits, like, the politicians that have stocks in the prison industrial complex and shit like that, or police departments that benefit from, running black people, through the mill of the fucking system, and fines and fees and all of the type of fucking bullshit, right? Which ends up creating even more, generational poverty, right? Because if dad's locked up, then dad's not taking care of the family, and then the kid grows up, the son and daughter. The daughter, she goes off and becomes a single mother, then she's got to be on fucking welfare. Then the son, he grows up and joins a gang because he's looking for a positive male identity, so he's in the gang, dad's locked up, and then it's like rinse, wash, repeat. Right? As opposed to fucking injecting resources in, fixing the problem so that it's no longer a fucking problem. You know what I mean? It's just so it's just a waste of fucking what do you want to call it? Human capital. It's just a waste. But gotta maintain white supremacy. Oh, white people, we gotta be on top. We gotta keep it this way. And that's why I'm saying for the thorny nature of the black community in white America's side, I'm like, so be it. I say fuck it. Be the worst thorns that you can be. Be the biggest detriment that you can be to the system. Weigh this motherfucker down. Let white people bitch and cry and moan and everything else. Because first, then I don't have any hope that they're actually gonna put shit in its proper context and be like, damn. Our ancestors really did fuck those black people over. Man, maybe we should correct this. But instead, it's going to be, I didn't do anything. That shit shouldn't cost me. Fuck that shit. I ain't doing shit. No. It's about personal responsibility and them having the sweet twinkle of white Jesus. Right? Because what we really want them to do is we want them to act and behave despite being in the socioeconomic conditions that they're in. We want them to act and behave and think and operate just like we do, despite the fact that they live on the other side of the railroad tracks, right? We want them, why can't they be like us? Maybe because they don't have the same history as you. Maybe because they're not treated the same way that you are. Maybe because they don't have the same access to capital like you do. I mean, these are like the dumbest fucking questions, that they can fucking ask. Why can't they act like us? And I'm saying they did. I mean, the history is fucking there. They did everything in their power to crush the black community. And you got fucking millennials and zillennials that got all type of social media. All the information is literally on the internet. Documentaries, videos, CRT for days on the fucking internet of content that they can freaking look at and that can give them the scope of all the shit that we weren't taught in school, that they could be like, damn, I didn't know that this went down. I didn't know that happened. It's like Tom Hanks when Tom Hanks was like, I didn't know that even Tulsa happened. He's like fucking, in his twilight years, like I didn't even know Tulsa happened. Like where the fuck was I? You know what I'm saying? And it's the audacity of sitting there and having a group of people that you've literally, as a group, shit on and done everything in your power. Literally gone in and, here's black people, personal responsibility, building up communities, right? Because they were excluded from white people shit. You go in there and you burn this shit fucking down to the ground, then talk about you don't owe anybody everything, telling people that, that had literally their bank notes in their house, the receipts, and then going to the bank and the bank sitting there looking at them, telling them, well, sorry, if you don't have any receipts, well, all that money that's in our vault, how do we know it's yours? No, sorry, we're keeping that shit. And even when it came to burning down the communities, then literally going in, writing in the ledger, since nobody's claiming this land, all the shit that, was hilarious to me when black people were using against white people, all that sort of adverse possession type of shit, all that sort of, well, if nobody's staying here, I guess I'll just squat in this home for a year, and then it'll be mine, and then I'll pass it on to my kids. That was stolen fucking wealth. You know what I'm saying? You talk about slavery, you're going to get into argument about white people. They want to ignore gunboat diplomacy. They want to ignore how, the white people go in and they put in a puppet government like they did with freaking, Mossadegh or Karzai in Pakistan. They put in these puppets and then, be like, oh, well, see, they're governing themselves. Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, behind the curtains, it's like, do what the fuck we say. Otherwise, we're going to remove you from power. All that shit, right? So they want to ignore that. But I'm saying when in the discussion about fucking reparations for slavery in America, the policies that were put in place by the federal government or with the federal government's blessings and backing, things like redlining, okay, there is no escape from that. There is no escape from that. They can try to, oh, black people own slaves too and everything. Yeah, buying their own relatives so that their relatives weren't sold off to other plantations in the event that there was some benevolent slave owner who felt bad about slavery and freed his slaves and gave it to his favorite slave. And then his favorite slave was like, okay, the first person I'm buying is my wife and my kids and probably, my brothers and his family and shit like that. But they, again, wanting to ignore that. But I'm like, there is no dodging redlining, blockbusting, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO. The COINTELPRO is literally sitting. Hold on, let me sit there and read again what the objectives of COINTELPRO were. COINTELPRO. Let me read the objectives. So that you all really understand. And this is the second time I've done this. Read the objectives of COINTELPRO so that you all really understand. Hold on. Come on, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Read the objectives. Come on, where the heck is this at? The objectives, here we go. Intended effects. This is the federal fucking government. This is the FBI. Intended effects of COINTELPRO. The intended effect of the FBI's COINTELPRO was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, or otherwise neutralize groups that the FBI officials believed were subversive by instructing FBI field operatives to: number one, create a negative public image for target groups, for example, through surveilling activists and then releasing negative personal information to the public. This is how they found out that Martin Luther King was cheating on Loretta Scott King. The second one, break down internal organization by creating conflicts. For example, by having agents exacerbate racial tensions or send anonymous letters to try to create conflict. So here you got the federal government, right? You got an organization trying to better the black community, right? Personal responsibility, right? Not being, dependent on Uncle Sam and the government, right? Because the white people like to say that black people are vagrants and we want to hand out and all that other shit. Again, go listen to the speeches of Fred Hampton and you tell me where you hear a fucking handout. Go listen to the speeches of Malcolm X and tell me where you hear a fucking handout. Okay, but damn, where was I at? Breakdown organization tensions, racial tension. Yeah. So here you got the government, the federal government, intentionally making up shit and sending it, to people with gross misinformation. This is the government. This is who you pay taxes to. And this is what the fuck they're doing for organizations designed to better black people's position in this country. Then you have number 3, create dissension between groups. For example, by spreading rumors that other groups were stealing money, right? Again, to create more infighting. 4, restrict access to public resources, for example, by pressuring nonprofit organizations to cut off funding or material support, right? So again, it's all about the money. They know it's about the money. Well, if I can cut off the material support, then we don't have to do that. And who was the woman? Who was the woman FBI hated actress? What was her name? The FBI fucked with her. What was her name? Oh, what was her name? Yeah, Jean Seberg. Look up. I'm not going to dive into it in this video, but look up how the FBI attacked Jean Seberg because she supported the Black Panthers. She supported the Black Panther movement. Just watch some documentaries on Jean Seberg and check that shit out. Next one, 5, restrict the ability to organize protests, for example, through agents promoting violence against police during planning and at arrest. This is the whole Richard Aoki story. Okay, with federal FBI agent Larry Threadgill, who was his primary contact, where Richard Aoki, who was Asian, was given guns to give to the Black Panthers to try to incite violence of the Black Panthers with the police, which would shift popular opinion against the Black Panthers, because obviously the white news would come through and be like, oh, see, the Black Panthers, they're violent and they attacked police, and see, the same bullshit that white people have been doing forever with the propaganda in their media, by using their media as a weapon and a tool against not just black people, but any fucking movement that they don't agree with. Okay, because the media is controlled by big backers and big money and shit like that. It's just like with the Carl Tuckerson. The reason why they got rid of his ass is because big pharma is what was paying for basically all the studio time at Fox News. And Tucker Carlson on numerous occasions would attack big pharma, and they were like, "Nah, you got to get the fuck out. You got to get the fuck out of here." Well, hold on, let me pull this up. Tucker Carlson, big pharma, Fox News. Let's see what comes up. Tucker deal. This is a remarkable deal for drug companies. Tucker Carlson, if you really want to understand how powerful big pharma is, Tucker Carlson part ways with Fox News. Tucker Carlson is Twitter, blah blah blah. The only one, okay. Did Tucker Carlson criticize of big pharma contribute to his firing? Like, this, see what I'm saying? This is not some shit that I'm pulling out of my fucking ass. Number 5, restrict the ability to organize and protest. For the example, through agents promoting. No, we already read that one. Number 6, restrict the ability of individuals to participating in group activities, for example, by character assassinations, false arrest, and surveillance. Right? In other words, just throw any scandal at the wall and fucking hope it sticks. Make them look bad. This is the U.S. fucking government. So like when I say that white people in this country as a system, not any individual white person, not any person listening. Well, I'm a white person. I'm listening to your video and I didn't do anything. That's not what we're fucking talking about. We're talking about the system of white supremacy. They have done everything in their power, from the corporations to the fucking banks to the law enforcement to the local politicians, to the the justice system. All of it. They have done everything in their power to crush the black community. Okay, now the thing is that, when it comes to certain things, and again, that whole image of maintaining benevolence, right? When it comes to the most egregious forms of racism, the blatant forms of racism, such as the violence, they gotta curb that shit. Because it's just like the Vietnam War, when, the violence of the Vietnam War was coming through the television screen, that's what turned everybody against the war, which is why the military doesn't let camera crews just follow soldiers around like that anymore. That was established in Vietnam. Okay, because people get incensed when they see injustice, like blatant injustice like that. Just like George Floyd, with having a knee on his neck for 8.5 minutes. You had people that didn't even particularly care for black people, but they're just like, hey, 8 minutes and 45 seconds of a fucking knee on somebody's neck. Yo, that's totally uncalled for. I don't care for black people, but you don't got to be doing all of that. Right? So when people, see blatant, violence. Again, this goes back to the freaking 1979 and the fucking, the student, what was that? The hostage crisis. You know what I mean? With the exception of one person, they sent all the black people home. Them Iranians, they was like, nah, we seen y'all getting fucked up, in the 60s on TV and everything. They were like, Marquise, Latrell, Keisha, you can go home. You can go home. You know what I'm saying? So they sent them home. The white people, they was like, sit your ass down. Because it's you and your system that is the reason that's been fucking with our country. We had an elected leader, Mossadegh. Y'all motherfuckers came through and kicked him out. Then took the wealth of the country's resources and the fucking oil, you know what I mean, and funneled it to the to the rest of the world or Europe and freaking the United States. Again, British petroleum. There fucking ain't no fucking oil in Britain. British petroleum, right? Funnel this shit all around the world. Shah of Iran up there. Oh, look at me. I'm king. I'm king. You know what I mean? Until, freaking radical Islam came through and you got the Ayatollah Khomeini, and that's why Iran's on what it is right now. If the U.S. wasn't fucking with Iran, Iran wouldn't be what it is right now. You wouldn't have, the what do you call them people? The mullahs and the fucking, the theocracy that is Iran today. You wouldn't have that. It wouldn't have gone in that direction had, they just left Mossadegh, in power. But Mossadegh wasn't, bending over for, the Western powers and shit. This is what the fuck America does. But America wants to, pretend, again, how many people you think know that when you got people that go up on Jimmy Kimmel and they can't even point to fucking China on a map? How many Americans you think know that shit? Again, Americans they want to believe in all that fucking halftime sports, American baseball and Budweiser, yeah. With the screeching fucking eagle that fucking eagles don't even fucking screech. You know what I mean? Everything is just fucking, it's just bullshit. Freaking, what is it? Like a red-tailed hawk is actually the sound of a bald eagle. Think about it. They superimposed the sound of another bird onto American eagle to make it like, oh yeah, eagles are awesome. Listen to this screech, right? Eagles don't even fucking sound like that. Go ahead and Google the shit. They don't sound like that. It's like a fucking red-tailed hawk or some shit like that. It's something totally different. But you got people that are like, yeah, America, Kyle Rittenhouse, yeah, America. You know what I mean? Like, it's just. And again, when we get down to, inner city crime, inner city violence, people, they're like stuck in a fucking in a bubble. And yes, they turn on each other. It's like that fucking what was that thing that people I saw it before, but somebody, brought it up, and it very much is like that. That whole what is it? What was it called? The Rat City or something like that. What was that shit called? The Rat Paradise, Rat Experiment, Rat City Experiment. What the fuck was that thing called? The Rat City Experiment. What is this thing called? Rat Park. No, is this what it is? No. Rat Park. The Rat City Theory, Rat City, in which everything a rat could ever need was provided except space. The result was the population explosion, followed by pathological overcrowding and then extinction. And that's literally the position that they have, black people in right now. And unfortunately, with the decline and the breakdown of the homes due to lack of gainful employment being a primary issue, gainful employment for the men, you end up with, the shit that you see, where, the black teenagers are like lost boys, they're like freaking Lord of the Flies, or the Lost Boys in Peter Pan and shit like that. And what you see is what you see. They're not thinking about the bigger picture. They're not thinking about what's going on, outside of that shit. They again, single moms, no male guidance. All they thinking about is fucking, you dissed me on a track. You said this on a drill track. Oh, nigga. All that shit. That's all they fucking. That's their world. And this is where the fuck we are with shit. But like I said, man, I'm just I'm so done with like the omitting of information, white people's intellectual dishonesty. Like I don't care at this point. Because first off, I already know that most of these white folks are too bitch ass to do anything about it. The vast majority of them. Fucking out of shape and everything else. They can't even recruit these motherfuckers to join the goddamn military. You know what I mean? And I just, whatever. I carry my shit. I walk around. I'm like, whatever. I'm not looking to start no shit. But I'm just waiting for one of them, to fuck around and find out and get stupid with it. I'm just waiting for that shit. But it's just the vast majority of them, man. They're just pussies, man. I mean, just straight up pussies. And they talk all this shit online. And a lot of it is tied to having like this like white like identity, like this feeling that they're a part of this white team, even though there's like profound levels of classism within the white community. But like the white elites have really duped the white proletariat into thinking that they're somehow the vanguards of whiteness and that like they actually give a fuck about them, and they don't. And yet they've convinced these folks, that they're somehow upholding something. White, what I'm talking about. The type of white people that wear T-shirts that are like, these colors don't run. You know what I mean? Like that type of corny ass shit. These colors don't run. Yeah. Just oh God, I can't fucking stand it. I can't fucking stand it. It just. Ugh. But like I said, man, I'm just like fuck it. You know what I mean? It's just watching all these people. Oh my God, they're ransacking the store. Oh, they're stealing shit. Oh my God, oh, like I'm like good, very good. Oh, but this is, and then you get the other coon black people. Oh, this is just reinforcing negative stereotypes. Like you get all those coon black people, up there, and I'm like, these people don't fuck with you. They're not gonna correct what they did. Hell, again, you're probably ignorant of what they did, or you're intellectually obtuse, just like Larry Elders in this interview that he's having with the van on freaking damn, what the freaking, what is this, higher learning? I think, isn't he from freaking, what is it, the what's that show called, the Hollywood shit, damn, what's that show called? I can't think of what it's called. But like the Hollywood shit. What's the shit called? I forget, but I think he's from there. I don't know. It's like coming to me. It's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of what it is. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying. It's just how I look at it at this point. It goes back to what Amos Wilson said. And even with the African proverb, that Killmonger proverb, right? The child that is not embraced by the village, will burn it down to feel its warmth, right? And Amos Wilson, said, something to the effect of, if you, I mean, there was, he said it in two different ways because I've been actually trying to find the second part where he talked about the cannibalization, but basically, he said, if you have young men and you train them into, manhood and training and, and not to do this and not to do that and all that stuff, and you leave them there and they're still jobless and they're still unemployed, eventually they will, throw away those teachings because it doesn't benefit them. Then this is where you get into the people that want to always have these morality arguments. And I already know the morality game now. The morality game is to try to get people to fall in line without their actual condition changing. While they're existing and operating in absolute squalor or going without, to get them to behave. That is the goal. That is the purpose of all this white Jesus and religion and Islam and everything else. That is the purpose, of the shit. But the other thing that Amos Wilson said is that eventually they will cannibalize the community. If you have these men and, they're unable, to transition into manhood, as these young men they'll cannibalize the community. And the same thing applies internally within the black community, and it also applies externally outside the black community if we want to talk about the greater and larger America. And I could say that for both white men and black men, because the white community has completely fucked up, in terms of the white oligarchy and the white elites and whatnot, in terms of the fact that their own white male entitled grandchildren won't even be able to go out here and purchase a home, at their peak age of being in, the dating and the reproductive years, where all that shit really matters. That shit is not going to matter to a young man that finds, oh, I can finally buy a house at 50. It's not going to matter as much, when he's looking at the clock and he realizes he only's got about, 25 years left. You see, so it's just, I see how much, like, we talk about like the gender war, and we talk about the, women and feminism breaking the social contract, right? And men saying, hey, I'm not playing the game. Like, no, there's nothing in there for me. And society has broken the social contract. Now, some people want to say that, America never had a social contract with African Americans. I'm like, okay, well, if there's never been a social contract, or there isn't a social contract, then again, who the fuck are you to sit there and talk about black people and their behavior and how they should behave? If there was never a social contract established, that's like you sitting there saying that a company is bitching that you didn't do X, Y, and Z at your job. It's like, hey, it's not in the contract. It's not in the contract. You're not paying me. I'm not being paid. I'm just here. Fuck, you brought me here. Not only did you bring me here, I don't even know how to fucking get out this motherfucker, because I'm in the middle of the building. You brought me in here with freaking a scarf over my head and handcuffed, and it had earmuffs on and shit like it's goddamn Sicario. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you brought me here. I'm not like these other motherfuckers that came here willingly. You brought me here. And then even on the national scale, people be like, well, why don't y'all leave and go back to Africa and all this other shit and whatnot. It was so funny. Like, again, African Americans are a population of black people. They don't have a fucking home country. There's no place to send us back to. You know what I mean? What do you think? United Nations going to agree to that? Oh, yeah, just send them back to Africa. Any old where. That's not going to work. That's not going to fly. Right? Because America created the unique situation with African Americans. It created that. Same with, many, Brazil, what other countries? Countries in the Caribbean and whatnot. But at least those countries, majority black. But when you come to get down with these white countries that had former, slave, colonies and whatnot, this is your problem. That's how the rest of the world looks at it. You created this problem. How do you think the nations that never had slaves feel? They're looking at, hey, that's your problem. You created that shit. You wanted a whole bunch of fucking free labor and whatnot. That's on you. You see? See, the British, British try to, they throw rocks and hide their hands. The British are like, well, I mean, we tried to stop slavery. I mean, we sent ships all around the seven seas to stop slavery. So, but yeah, we did some fucked up shit with the East Indian Company. But hey, we recognize the error of our ways, and we nipped it in the bud very early. So they try to play that game, but America, like, no. America just keeps kicking the can further and further down the road, especially on this topic of reparations. And I'm just like, well, it's just going to get worse and worse. I mean, these are the consequences. I like this is the part that blows my mind. What do you expect? And no, you're not, as white people, as white Americans, you're not just going to go and, oh, here, black people, here's some crumbs. Okay, be satisfied with that. We're done with you. No, it doesn't work like that. Nope. It's going to cost a lot, because the lives that were destroyed through slavery and Jim Crow. That was a lot. And again, white people, America, they can sit there and, it'll be a logistical nightmare. They'll say all that. And it will be a logistical nightmare. I'll be the first one to admit it, like how you would even go about giving out reparations and all that other stuff. But, to sit there and use the logistical nightmare to justify not doing it at all, yeah, fuck you. Again, the problems will get worse and worse and worse. And white people will be like, we're not paying shit. What we need to do is we need to just purge them. Oh, okay, motherfucker, bring it. Bring it. That's why I'm telling black people, I'm telling y'all need to strap up. I mean, strap up hard. Strap up hard. Because I don't see them trying to correct or fix any of this. And shit's just going to get progressively worse inside and outside the black community. You're probably going to have to protect yourself from other black people that are in survival mode and whatnot. I mean, it's just the reality. Okay, there will be some black on black violence and whatnot. It will happen. It's not just cut and dry like, okay, you're team red and you're team blue. Like, no, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be all type of messy. But I'm saying eventually white people and all of their outrage, eventually they're going to get around to, we just need to enact the final solution and just get rid of them. Right? Because that will come before they actually concede to like, oh, we need to really pay reparations for slavery and Jim Crow. Because we really, as a system, we fucked them up. And now we have to deal with all these problems. Again, I look at it like gremlins. Okay? And the guy in that documentary, the one with the woman and she's like cleaning in the kitchen, it's like a blonde woman looking like Marilyn Monroe, and it's about redlining. And, again, I give credit to that white man in that video. It was an old white man with a beard, and somewhere about halfway through the video, he goes, we had an opportunity and we blew it. And he was talking about right after World War II, the with the FHA loans and, the whole situation with housing, the government could have put in there, they could have told the banks, oh yeah, we'll back this and whatever. But, these communities need to be, I don't know, African Americans were at the time probably 11% of the population, maybe 10% of the population. 10% of all of these, 10% of these houses have to be, filled with African American, obviously the ones that qualified and all that other stuff. But you got to put black people in here. We're not doing this racial housing covenant shit. We're not doing, the redlining. We're not doing, and I'm saying at this point in time, had they done that, you would have had people who would have had some serious long generational ties with African Americans living in mixed neighborhoods, growing up in mixed neighborhoods. African Americans and white people would have a much closer cultural ties, like all that shit with like, even in the 90s, like when they had like Green Day and all these like garage band type of groups, you would have seen mixed band type. You would have seen more like Dave Matthews type of bands and shit like that. It's like, oh, hey, where you guys from? Like, oh yeah, we grew up in Missouri in the same neighborhood. Really? Oh, same neighborhood. Like you would have seen that shit there would have been a whole lot of shit that by the fucking time the 90s came around, people wouldn't have been sweating. Like the shit that was going on, like it would just be less, and even now it would even be less. Okay, and black people, everywhere would just be demographically more mixed than what it is. I'm not saying that you don't have people that will still want to live around each other. We saw how when they try to integrate the schools, people were fighting this shit. But even personally, I think overall, the busing was a success. There's people that were friends, on that Remember the Titans type of thing. There's people that are still friends and still cool to this day because of the busing. Even though the parents were on some, my kids ain't going to school with no niggers. Like, even though that, they had parents that were like that, the kids and the grandkids and everything. But see, the problem with it goes back to what Martin Luther King said as his last speech. In I think it was in it was 1968. No, or 19 might have been 1967. But anyway, it was his last speech. Where he pointed that out. The whole thing about we integrated the lunch counters, but at the end of the day, all we did was have money leave the black community and go into the white community. And then when it comes to the economic opportunities, and education education is needed, but an education alone was never going to free black people, because at the end of the day, the problem is that black people have to go to white people, for gainful employment. Black people were actually better off during segregation, because they had their own. Right? They had to create their own. Integration, gave the illusion of inclusion. And as a result, black people lost a lot more. There's another thing that Larry Ellis pointed out, and it was like, and he did it, and who else did it? There was somebody else who did it. Thomas Sowell did this bullshit too. I was watching some Fox News thing with the Levine guy, right? And talking about in black community, black families, black people were better off financially in 1940s to 1960s. That 20-year span, they were doing better. And it's like, of course, motherfucker, it was a goddamn economic boom. That's why. You had all the resources pivot, towards the war effort. And then you had the post-war booming economy, where everything was pretty much damn near everything in the world was manufactured in the United States, because Europe was bombed to hell and Asia wasn't up to par. You know what I'm saying? So again, the bridge in Trenton, we make what the world takes, or I think it just says we make the world takes, right? From Baltimore to Trenton to the Pittsburgh, again, it's called the Rust Belt for a reason, which means at one point in time it was the Steel Belt. You couldn't have a flyer car than a Lincoln Continental and a Cadillac. Now, ever since the 90s, it's Lexus and Mercedes-Benz and everybody else caught up. So to sit there and act like and talk about how things were better, back, it was a booming economy, and black people were doing better, but they were not doing better relative to white people. They just got again, when the economy is doing good, will black people be doing better? Of course, that's a no-brainer. That doesn't mean that systemic racism went away. That just simply means that they have more job openings. And most of the time, the black people who would go in there, and he had a job, but he either had the most dangerous job, or he had the dirtiest job, or he had the most toxic job, that shortened his lifespan. You know what I mean? So it's just way too much intellectual dishonesty in these conversations. These conversations are not an honest conversation. And if you ask me, they're not going to be an honest conversation, because the conclusion of the conversation is cut the damn check. Cut the damn check. For reparations on slavery and Jim Crow, so that we can actually, have the means, for the black-white disparity, for that gap to be closed. But not, again, it'll be all type of mental gymnastics, away from that shit. And they'll quickly try to point to, pathological behaviors that are due to prolonged exposure to poverty, and them not cutting the check. And then say, they're just like that. Completely ignoring that this nation did everything in its power to cripple the black community. Everything in its power, even on the medical level. When you want to talk about the Tuskegee experiments, like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Well, we're just guinea pigs? You see, so like when I see white people bitching about, oh, these kids are tearing up the mall, oh, they robbing this, they stealing this, oh, this is only going to reinforce, negative stereotypes. Like it doesn't matter whether it reinforces negative stereotypes. It wasn't like you were sharing any goddamn way. I hate when people go out here and they threaten to not do what they already weren't going to do. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? You weren't going to do the right thing anyway. Any additional negative shit isn't like here we go with the double disqualifiers. I remember one time, somebody tried to hit me with that double disqualifier bullshit. Tried to say, the chick was fat. Why didn't you go and take this chick out? Oh, she was fat. And she was ugly too. Hey, you can stop it. She was fat, man. You don't got to go into, she was this and she was that and, all these other things. I'm like, you can stop it. She was fat. I already know you're not going to get with a fat chick, man. You don't got to sit there and go into all these other extra details. I'm like, you said she's too big. End of discussion. We can stop and we can end the discussion right there. So, it's just, I'm just so sick of the intellectual dishonesty. I'm going to finish watching this Larry Elders, interview and whatnot. I got to the part where he was like, like when Van he laid everything out about, the policies that were put in place, the urban renewal, the demolishing of black communities, the wealth disparities, the denial of access to, purchasing homes, at a time and in an era, where the values of those homes were appreciating, being able to buy into those communities. And he laid the whole shit out, and Larry was just like, I disagree with what you're saying. I had to stop the video and I had to make this video, because between Larry, and again, these talking heads, and I'm so glad that we have the internet now, and you have these alternative, media sources like what, Jason Black and, Professor Black Truth and Tariq Nasheed, what they'll all say, about, because these narratives have to be challenged. It's an interesting thing because these actually supplement what, Dr. Claude Anderson said, about the whole, the whole thing about, if you don't have any media, he talked about the 5 pillars that the black community has to have, the economics and controlling the media and things like that. Because if you don't control the media, then the other side can just sit there and talk bad about you all day. And as, what was his name? Joseph Goebbels, the Third Reich's, propaganda minister said, like if you repeat a lie enough, it becomes truth. People just start believing it. Just like, everything from, remember when people were running around, 1 in 3 black men are in jail. There's about black men are, what are they? They're 7% of the population, whatever. There's 40 million of us, so cut that in half, like 20 million. So, and then reduce that number. And, if you took out all the children, I don't know what number you would be left with, but let's just go with anywhere like 12 million black men or something like that. You know what I mean? 1/3 of 12 million is going to be 4 million. You go online, how many people are currently in prison? Let's Google that. How many people are currently in prison? In prison would be, hold on. How many people are currently in U.S. prisons and jail? Come on. About 1.2 million people are currently incarcerated in state and federal prisons. 1.2 million people. 1/3 of the 12 million black men, I'm just throwing that number out there, would be 4 million people. You see what I'm saying? So, it's like so more than, not more than, but what is that? 3 times the amount of people almost would be sitting would have to be in prison. And again, 1.2 million people. That includes all female prisons. That includes all inmates, state and federal. Like the math ain't mathing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying that's how bad, letting people just sit there and repeat shit. And you know how bad people are. Like once that shit, as they say, a lie will go around the world several times, before the truth even begins, to be spread. And so, like, yeah, these narratives, they have to be challenged. They have to be. And the best way to counter this shit is with real numbers, actual research. You got the freaking power in your hand on your cell phone. There's no reason why the bullshit should just be floating around. You know what I mean? And these intellectually dishonest conversations are still going on unchallenged, unabated. No. Right? Is unabated the word? Hold on, let me use my supercomputer to make sure I use the right choice of words. Unabated. What is this? Abetted, unabated. Past participle. Abetted. Encourage or assist. What did I say? Unabated? Yeah, unassisted. Yeah. So, anyway. No, unchallenged. No, I didn't use the right word. Anyway. But you get my point. So, I'm just saying, I put things in its proper context. I'm like, black people did not get here by ourselves. You know what I mean? I didn't even know. I remember people talk about the ghetto and the projects. And I remember when I came online, people were like, oh, black people, free housing and blah, blah, blah. And they're lazy and da, da, da. I remember the people were saying all that shit. And I'm like, how were the projects even created? Why did they create projects? They just were like, yes, we have a housing shortage and we will build projects. We will build Cabrini Green and shit like that. No, they destroyed existing black communities. They called them blighted. They called them slums, and they destroyed them because they had all these urban planning and shit like that. And then they stuffed everybody into the projects. Oh, we're going to build you better, more modern housing. Oh, that's what we're going to do. Completely uprooted neighborhoods, that sort of connection that people would have. You know what I mean? Being able to, leave your kids with, Miss Jackson, who knew your grandmother. So you didn't worry about going to work and leaving your kids with her. She was like the neighborhood daycare and shit like that. That doesn't exist now. I shouldn't say it doesn't exist, but it's rare. Some of the more older neighborhoods that people relocated to and people have been living there for 30 years plus, that'll still go on. You know what I mean? But by and large, what black people had, they destroyed that shit. They destroyed the fabric of a community. Imagine if I went into the people with the small hats community and destroyed their shit. And then we're like, yeah, go move over here. Or if I went into the Latino community or an Italian neighborhood, and just gutted it and uprooted it, it wouldn't be the Italian neighborhood anymore. The culture, the smell of food, the vibe, everything would be different. You know what I mean? The families wouldn't have connections to one another anymore. The parents might. They might get on the phone and talk to each other every now and again. But the kids, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Who are you? You could have two kids fighting and whatnot, not knowing that their parents actually dated when they were in high school. Because they don't even know the shit. It's fucked up. It's just fucked up. But yeah, I know I'm making this video long, but I just got to get this shit off my chest because, I'm so sick of the fucking gaslighting. I'm sick of the what's the word that I'm looking for? Just the omission of truth. And these white people, they call themselves truth tellers, running around the internet. Oh, we're such truth tellers. No, you're not. You love to misconstrue things, conflate things, make false equivalencies, and act like, you're telling the truth by omitting information, not putting things in their proper context, not putting things in their proper like what was going on, at that period of time. It's just like this video with the July Perry shit. In the documentary that the guy used in the video, it was said that the sheriff was in the fucking Klan. He was in the Ku Klux Klan. So freaking Moss Norman and July Perry knew what fucking time it was going to be, when they showed up there. And again, it was a long train of them being discriminated against at the fucking polls because they did not want black people to have political power, in that community. Because again, Moss and July Perry both, had they both had, a significant power in terms of labor because they, you couldn't get workers because they got all the black people to stay on code. Said it right in the documentary. You know what I mean? But dude's gonna try to make it like, oh, the black people, they brought violence. They brought the smoke. He came to the polling place that wouldn't let him vote. He came to the polling place, with a shotgun in the back of his car. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, really? Shotgun in the back of the car. And that is them bringing violence. So I guess all of these white folks that run around and got to show up at Starbucks with an AR-15 and strapped to their back, or show up to Whole Foods, with their open carry, pistols in their holsters and everything. I guess they're bringing violence, like the liberals say, right? You see what I'm saying? Like you see how when shit applies to us, it's not, oh, this black man was exercising his Second Amendment rights, right? Or like when the white people went and stormed the Capitol at Michigan, or when the white people went and stormed the Capitol in Virginia because they were going to pass gun laws, right? And I'm a strong proponent of the Second Amendment, but I'm saying, like, even in that kangaroo pouch dude and the shit that he's saying in the video, just notice how a black man going to a polling station with a shotgun in the back of his vehicle is a black man bringing violence, but yet what do we see with white people with their AR-15s? You know what I mean? What was the message that that militia, who many of which got rounded up and charged with whatever they got freaking charged with, with trying to kidnap the governor, right? Which they actually had a plot to do, right? What message were they sending when they went up to that Capitol with their AR-15s? What message were they sending? And then again, just the whole idea that you're just gonna, the idea that black people are just gonna put up with that type of shit indefinitely. Everybody seems to forget that in the 1920s, many of these black men were black men who came back from World War I. World War I ended in 1917. The Ku Klux Klan was at its peak in 1926 when they marched on Washington, D.C. So you got black men that came back from war, fought for this country, and you think that they're going to put up with your shit in 1920? Motherfucker, fuck you. Again, but see, if you don't put shit in its proper historical context, you see, then these savage black Africans, they attacked us, and they attacked us white people because, there's a process, right? And you were denying them that process. Just like, between freaking 1870 and 1921, there were between 2,000 and 5,000 black people who were lynched and got mob justice who didn't get their due process. Again, fuck you. Just god damn, man. I can't with these folks. You know what I mean? And they're just out here just spewing their bullshit. Like I said, I hope that black people continue to be a thorn in white people's side. And they'll just be in the comment sections on YouTube whining and crying and bitching and They took TVs out of Target. Oh, yeah. And so the fuck what? And so the fuck what? You ain't gonna hear me fucking file any complaints, about that shit. You just not. It is what it is. And I'm saying, and I know what that means. What if the next day I want to go to Target and buy something and my local Target is ransacked? I'm just gonna shrug. I just look at the whole situation as like a casualty of war. I'm like, fuck it. Fuck it. Because these motherfuckers just literally think that they're just going to continue with the discrimination, the marginalization. Black people are just going to accept their lot in life, and it's just going to be this way. You know what I mean? I like what Paul Mooney said. He was like, you tell our grandkids to get to the back of the bus. There won't be a bus. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my rant. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.